Talk to me about the difference between a values-driven business and or values-driven brand. And
Sleep well
a
at night.
brand. There you go, folks.
Yeah.
I didn't
sleep
even
well
have
at
to
night.
finish that
Trust
question.
me, you sleep well at night. Sometimes you don't sleep because you're worried about people you care about. That's in my situation. But I never worry about cheating people or worry about, loans or anything that's, I just sleep well at
Alhamdulillah.
night, that I know that I have positively contributed to the whole value chain across our ecosystem.
The introduction to regenerative coffee farming workshops are now available on demand in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. For coffee producers, the workshop is available for just $10, and for everyone else, it's $20. Led by our incredible professors, the workshop is packed with practical knowledge and strategies to help coffee farmers and the entire coffee industry adapt to the challenges of climate change, rising costs, and market demands. If you're a business owner, this workshop is a great and affordable way to inform your employees about the challenges ahead while also supporting Mapper Forward. Head to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the description to purchase the on-demand version and start your journey towards a more sustainable coffee future today. Welcome to the Map It Forward Middle East podcast, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and our guest in this series for episode 3 of our 5-part series is Mohamad Merhi from Cypher Coffee Roasters, based here in the United Arab Emirates. In this series, we're talking about building a successful coffee brand in the Middle East. Cypher is absolutely a successful coffee brand, not just here in the Middle East, but it's known around the world. And in the last episode, we talked about what people get wrong about building a brand in the region. In this episode, we're going to talk about the important elements of getting it right. And we've started to cover some of that in the last couple of episodes, Mohamad. But in your mind, what are the key things that people need to get right about building a brand here in the Middle East?
I thought about it, and I think one of the things that sometimes it comes just natural, but when you think about it, this is what we've done, like cultural fluency, for example. I thought about it in this. I wanted to respect traditions, yet offer innovations. Come up with, while you're respecting the traditions, where you come from. For example, coffee is not just a drink; it's hospitality, it's status, ritual. Until today, every morning, I look forward for having this 5 minutes without the chaos of my kid and the house in the morning to prepare the coffee for everyone in the house. That ritual
so nice.
is just sacred for me. I just love those first 10 minutes of preparing the coffee, for everyone, and just sipping it in the morning. That ritual, actually, that was the ritual that made me fall in love with coffee. That was really what. And the thing is, hospitality as well. We are Arabs. We're known for our hospitality. You know what I mean? And coffee is a big representation of our hospitality. You know what I mean? This is what we are. This is how we offer our generosity to people, and this is why I love it. I love it so much, Second point, just not to go deep into that. Second point.
We could go deep.
Yeah. Consistency.
Second point.
Consistency.
Yeah.
And storytelling. If you've been to Cypher and you see how much emphasis we put in consistency. In the message we send across through branding, in the production, the quality control, I would rather be more consistent than excellent. You know what I mean? Because it's important to have consistency in life. Is so important. This is something I learned through sports, for example. That's something that sports gave me. Storytelling, people connect with brands. They connect with the reflected values. You need to be clear about your identity, consistent with product quality, and you need to have a story worth telling.
Say more about values, because I think this is a part that people don't. When building a brand,
it's so important. Like people forget it. People come, they want to create a logo, they want to do whatever. And they forget that it's what's inside. It's your values, like it's what really this, and you have to stick to them. Okay. So example, as a human being, okay, someone in your house steals money from you. Someone that's working in your house steals money. I thought, this is something that I think about, I'm never going to change my principles and values. I'm always going to be generous. I'm always going to provide, because it's not your bad behavior that's going to cause me to change my values. I am what I am. And I stick to my values. And if you're an outlier away from these values, doesn't mean I take your passport away, or I do this and I do that and I prevent you. This does not fit within my values. I am what I am, and I continue to. Your bad behavior, I'm going to learn from it and be more cautious for the future, but it's not going to change my values. You get what I mean? Mm-hmm. So this is something, and within the work environment as well. You will have some colleagues of yours that have their personal issues, that do bad things, that cause different things, but you're not going to change your values. These are your values, and these values should be communicated with. One of the biggest things that we've done is when we created the purpose and the values of Cypher is printed all across. If you come to Cypher, you see it printed and clear to people. What's the value? What are the values of Cypher? And something that took time, and it was, again, a collective effort, by the way. So this is something that I really would preach to people. Don't change your values. Stick to your values and principles. They can be modified, but the essence of your values should not be affected by negativity from other people.
We're going to go more into what I'm about to ask you in the next episode, but I want to bring it up now because I want to push back on what you're saying. In the coffee industry right now, we're experiencing a coffee crisis. And how at Mapper Forward we define the coffee crisis is from the increase in the price of coffee.
Yeah.
Whether it's commercial coffee or specialty coffee, it's all going up.
Yeah.
It's the crisis that's related to climate that's causing not enough coffee to meet the demand that's required around the world. We're talking about logistical issues of getting coffee around the world because of a lack of access to containers, and geopolitical issues that are creating problems in the in all different ports, whether we're talking about the Suez Canal, whether we're talking about the Arabian Peninsula, whatever it is. Or there's a lot of problems with regards to geopolitics and climate that are impacting shipping. All of these things come together to form the coffee crisis and more, right? When it comes to branding and values, when you present a coffee crisis in amongst that, it really causes a brand to have to make a decision about whether they stick to their brand values or whether they start compromising on that. Now, one example of that is somebody that says, we sell specialty coffee. And they have built a brand that is based on having cheap access to coffee or access to cheap coffee.
Yes.
Then the price of coffee goes up and they have to make a decision. They either continue to put specialty coffee in the bags and they put the prices up, or they absorb the cost, or they shift that behavior. They continue to tell people they're putting specialty coffee in the bags, but they don't put specialty coffee in there.
Yeah.
Speak about the relationship of when like, how far do you take brand values?
You have
in
to take them
moments of
all the way.
crisis?
But you have to define your values first, no? Maybe these guys, their values are not, maybe if their values are high quality coffee, whether, it's commercial or, I don't know, like exactly. But the most important thing is not to deceive your audience or the clients or, all the
Right.
actually all the stakeholders involved. That's the most important thing. So in my point, like, you shouldn't, no matter how difficult the situation is, you shouldn't deviate away from your values. As simple as that. That's something that
So
we
that
do.
goes back to consistency.
Yeah, it goes back to consistency. That's it. This is us. This is how we do things. Also, put things in perspective. Maybe it's about survival for some people. Not everyone is rich and he's doing this as a side hustle. Maybe some people don't deceive people. If you're gonna do it and you're gonna say that you're serving specialty coffee and it's not specialty coffee, just don't deceive people. That's what I think. But sometimes also, remember, we function in an immature market. Sometimes the consumer doesn't know. Really, like as a consumer, I mean, let's say you're a roasting facility, okay? And someone sends you coffee that's amazing. And you cup it and you profile it, and it tastes like crazy fruity. And that coffee is actually infused, okay? But the producer is not telling you it's infused. And you buy it, and there is, for the lack of knowledge, you don't know, and you don't sell it as infused. You know what I mean? So the guy didn't know what it can happen, because in an immature market, the level of knowledge is not that high. You know what I mean? So it can happen that, you've been misled, and in result, you're misleading others. You know what I mean? And this is what I mean. Like, sometimes there might be different reasons why people are doing these things, but at the end of the day, I believe clients will be able to tell who's sincere and who's not sincere.
100%.
And it's a reflection. That's why I keep saying, stick to your values, because I believe, where is this coming from? It's coming from, not because I want, we want Cypher to be the biggest coffee company. No, actually, I want to work with like people who have similar values like us. So if I do certain things in a certain way to reflect my values, I'm hoping that the clients that I work with and the suppliers that I work with are aligned with me in terms of the values. Because this makes me enjoy my everyday when it comes to, business relationships and doing business. And if I can maintain an economically viable business with these set of stakeholders, clients, and and colleagues, and I'm happy. I don't have to be making hundreds of millions of dollars. No.
Yeah.
There's an economic value that's important, yes, in order for our business to continue to be sustainable and continue to live our lives in a comfortable manner. But doesn't mean you steer away from your values to achieve the billions. That's at least what we believe in. Some people tell you, screw the values, I want the billions. Okay, it's different, but for us, we work differently.
So do you talk to me about the difference between a values-driven business and or values-driven brand? And
sleep well at night.
Brand. There you go, folks. I didn't even have to finish the question.
Trust me, you sleep well at night. Sometimes you don't sleep because you're worried about people you care about. That's in my situation. But I never worry about cheating people or worry about, loans or anything that's... I just sleep well at night, that I know that I have positively contributed to the whole value chain across our ecosystem.
As a business owner, what does that mean to you? That you've built a brand? I call it conscious capitalism.
Yes, it is a
right?
Definitely. And I'm influenced.
And I'm a big fan of that.
I'm influenced by a lot of people, and people like Patagonia, like the brand Patagonia influences me, and I'm influenced by doing good, across maybe sometimes, you don't know, but like you might have hurt someone indirectly you don't know about, but I hope not. I hope that we positively contributed to everyone within the industry, and it's difficulty because we're not the normal. It's not how the majority of businesses think.
What makes you different? If we're talking about getting things right, it's important in our industry. It's important in any industry, but it's important when you're building a brand in our industry because there are so many businesses that do what we do as coffee businesses.
We sincerely care. I care about my clients. I want one of the biggest pains.
It's not just that.
No, I just want to highlight this point. One of the biggest pains I have about the increase in price of coffee is how much pain it's causing across the whole supply chain of coffee, really. And my client, like I feel so bad for some of my clients because they were not, like you mentioned before, they were not priced correctly. They thought that with this point will never come, but it came, and you shouldn't sell that low. Very simple. You shouldn't have sold that low. Because
we've been talking about it for years.
Yeah.
We've been telling people for years, like the coffee farmer has been subsidizing your low prices. And we're going to explore that in depth in the next episode. But before we wrap up this episode, what in your mind is the thing that defines, like if there's someone out there that's thinking of starting their business, right? And we'll talk about people's access to starting a new brand in the last episode of this series. But if there's someone out there that's thinking, you know what, I want to one day open a coffee brand.
Yeah.
What do you think is the one thing that they should think about getting right?
Has to come from the heart. I always tell people that.
Okay.
So it should not be money that's driving you. I don't believe in that. It shouldn't be. It should be economic benefit is important, 100%.
Yeah.
But it has to come from the heart. Has to. I'm a big believer in this. It has to be something that you really want to do. Really, really want to do. Something that you enjoy on a daily basis.
There are easier ways to make money than coffee.
Yes.
Like if anyone's thinking that this is the place that they're going to make their millions, this is not, it's too hard.
Yes.
You don't get into coffee to make squillions of dollars. If you don't do this for the love of coffee, go do something else.
Especially coffee.
Especially coffee
because
hard.
It's hard. It's taste. It's quality. That's what I keep telling people. Like, I would never say bad quality coffee because I wouldn't drink it. I would want something that I can drink.
But someone else will.
Yeah. There is a market for that. But even if you're gonna provide the high quality commercials or whatever, you have to choose the high quality commercials. You know what I mean? You have to do your homework.
Whatever you can afford.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it exists sometimes. You'll be surprised when I cup certain coffees and I'm like, it's good. But but really, it has to come from the heart. Like, yeah, you might say this is what books say or what. I'm a real life example of that.
Well, and people are like, oh, it's so idealist. Like, saying something comes from the heart is it's too like esoteric. And well, these two people that you're seeing or listening to are both people who built a business out of heart and got successful doing it. Yeah. So we're examples, and other people that you see on this podcast are people who I would consider conscious capitalists. These are people who see capitalism, business, as something that's worth pursuing, but they're not going to screw other people over and rip off other people in order to be successful themselves. And that's, you can't build a business like that without having heart in it in the first place.
100%.
So in the next episode, folks, we're going to talk about the recent challenges. We've started talking about them now, but we're going to talk about the coffee crisis that's existing and how that impacts coffee brands in this region. So join us for that. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. This episode is part of a 5-part series produced by Mapper Forward. Check the full playlist and guest details in the show notes, as well as how you can support our work in the coffee industry. Become a premium YouTube subscriber, explore our Patreon and any brands we've partnered with to bring you this podcast. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us grow our audience.